Okay. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Doctor Who review, episode number 77. Now here we're reviewing, and of course this is a story featuring this guy, so no hiding this time. Yeah, we're reviewing the 135th story for Doctor Who, Planet of Fire, and yes, features the return of the anti-alien Doctor, Chameleon, and it's also the debut of Perry Brown, played by Nicole Bryant. It is also the final appearance of Turlough in this series, so it kind of shows up a cameo next episode. You see, one thing I at least got praise for this story, unlike, let's say, with King's Demons, where that story was okay, this story was a lot of fun. Like, wow. Who would have thunk, though, like a year later, we see Return of the Master, and it's a much better story. I mean, the one thing I thought was interesting about the story King's Demons was the characters. That was the best thing about it. Heck, I even tweeted Janet Fielding about the episode of what she remembered about it. Here's what she remembered. Laughing on the set, being cold during filming, and that damn chameleon when he returns for the episode. Yeah, and by the way, Chameleon himself gets some time to see him in the robot form. Approximately 3 times the whole episode. You see him at the beginning, a little bit after that, and you don't see him again to the end of the episode. So, mostly put, Tegan has left the TARDIS. She gets briefly mentioned this episode. Yes, it's interesting though, the fact it's the first Peter Davison story to not feature Tegan in any way, shape, or form. Nothing on screen wise, aside from an offhand mention. This also mentions the Daleks in here. So, we start off on this alien planet, this desert planet. We have a guy who looks like he's from Lawrence of Arabia. This, by all appearances, the whole thing about him being a parody of Lawrence of Arabia was like almost cut out of the script just by appearance wise. Yeah, it's from Lawrence of Arabia. So, I'll see you guys later. So, we have these 2 guys that climb up the fire mountain, aka a volcano, to see if this guy, Lokar, is in fact real. He isn't. Cut to, believe it or not, the TARDIS. Yes, the TARDIS. We see the interior. I always love interior shots for Doctor Who. I think some really good scenes always just shot. I love the dialogue you said. This also we have here, from the point of view of Doctor and Turlough, this is just after Resurrection Daleks, which was the very previous story of the show. Which was also Tegan's last regular appearance in the show. As a regular, though, she did come back a couple times after that. One in a non-canon story, Fixing the Centaurans, and she came back for Power of the Daleks. Though, if you don't count basically her cameo in Caves of Rizali, but technically her next physical appearance was actually in Power of the Dalek, which was a really good story, by the way. I love it. And apparently, according to Janet Fielding herself, thanks to a couple of interviews I watched, she basically was hoping to call back. She really wanted to be on the series very badly. Apparently she was watching New Who since it was brought back in 2005. Yeah, listen to her interviews. It's like so interesting to listen to her talk. Now, after the whole thing with the scene with Chameleon, we see him lie on the floor, and the next time we see him, he's on the floor as well. They took to the TARDIS for some reason. It's not exactly explained why he's here, why he's here on the floor. And from what I've heard, the reason why they couldn't use him a lot of the time, like between King's Demons and this very episode, is because he was too freaking difficult to operate. Yes, Peter Davison didn't give a damn about Chameleon. Not at all. Which I'll talk more about that later. So, yeah, they would cut to Earth, where we meet the beautiful Perry Brown, played by the, at the time, still very lovely nowadays, Nicole Bryant. Yep, this is actually her debut episode. Yes, Perry Brown, a companion who appeared in this story, the following story, the entirety of the very next season, almost the entirety of the following season. Mostly the first 2 stories, and she replaced with somebody else. So we introduce her here, where she is meeting up with her stepfather, Howard. Yes, who spends the whole scene without a shirt on. I'm like, dude, you can put on a freaking t-shirt or something. Why in the world is he walking without a shirt on for? Next time we see him, he's wearing a suit, but it's not really him, it's just Chameleon. So she wants to go to Morocco, and she's got like the famous vacation. There's a little mention of schooling here, but not much here. So she has a flight to catch to Morocco, or at least Egypt, but her stepfather decides to leave her on the boat, causing him to miss the flight. Why in the world he did this for? Don't know. It's like he really wanted to go back to New York so badly. Yeah, she's here with her mom too, and there's also a scene later I'm going to bring up in a minute. So, by the way, she sees a device that was found by her stepfather, this weird metal device that has a symbol on it that Turtle's got on his arm. Which, I should point out, they've never discussed this before. Yeah, it's almost like basically they just had to include this here because it's Turtle's final episode, this whole thing of this mysterious past. Like, it is known that he's an alien. It has been known since his debut episode. He's not from Earth. Also, I should point out, though, in this episode, he ditches his tie that he's been wearing since Mar and Undead. Yeah, the tie is gone. And he ditches his suit that he's wearing because he switched off for a white shirt with blue stripes and shorts. Yeah, so then we see him. Well, actually, first we see Perry where she gets in, where she's got up her stuff in this plastic bag, and she tries to swim to shore, nearly drowns. So Turtle has to take off his shorts to reveal he's wearing a Speedo. Oh, by the way, we also see Nicole Bryant in a bikini. Oh, I read online apparently that she and Peter Davis did a James Bond style shoot with him wearing a tuxedo and her wearing a bikini, and she looks fantastic in bikini. I'm sure the guys basically in the mid-80s must have been drooling all over how beautiful this woman is. And clearly for a male perspective, she's purely there for eye candy, but she's actually a really good actress, and she does really good for her role here. And she's supposed to be American despite the fact the actress is British. Now, I heard the reason why they casted her was because Doctor Who was getting popular in America. Similar to happened with Tegan, where Doctor Who was popular in Australia, so bringing an Australian actress. So, that's how they got Tegan on the series. Yep. So, very similar circumstance of both. And they both made their debut in a weird circumstance. Nicole Bryant made her debut in the penultimate episode for Peter David, while Jan Fielding showed up in Tom Baker's final story in the show until he popped up again a couple times after that, which he popped up in a charity special and the 50th anniversary special. Yep. So she's brought on board the TARDIS by Turlo. He asks her where she got the device. She has no idea, and then we see Chameleon transform into her father. Because of some kind of telepathic connection she has with Chameleon. Yeah, this is not actually explained. Of why, of all people, that Chameleon turns into her stepfather, even though Chameleon's never met Howard at all. Oh, and there's this sequence in here where she says, "Don't turn off the lights, Howard. Don't leave me alone." From what I've read, there is a dark relationship between Perry and Howard. There is implication that Howard may have raped Perry when she was younger. That is implied by an actual novel. Some said, another source I saw, apparently Howard may have actually been beating her. But yeah, this was quite awkward, and it took a book to explain this. I have read the book, I know because I read online. Yeah, so it's weird, and then we see Howard the whole episode where he acts weird. Now, I'm not sure how Chameleon even know who Howard is, given the fact that he's never met him at all. Why is he doing this? Well, it's real that the Master is responsible for this. Yeah, and apparently he seems to have this weird room. It's not explained in the final episode why the heck this is. Okay, let me spoil exactly what the heck's going on with the Master. The Master is tiny! Yes, in this weird camera effect they have in the final episode, apparently he shrunk himself by accident and he's trying to restore himself to his natural size. Yeah, and somehow he still controls his TARDIS despite the fact he's tiny. It's not really explained here at all. Because apparently, now the whole reason why he's tiny is because he was trying to expand the power of his tissue compressor eliminator. That's what they call her. I'm not sure why they refer to it as eliminator for, despite the fact it's simply the tissue compressor. This is the only time I've ever heard of referred to as that. As a matter of fact, its previous story, it's referred to as a tissue compressor, while this story is tissue compressor eliminator. You would think eliminator, you would think it'd be gone. Nope, still shrinks. Why add the other extra word? I have no idea. So they go to the planet, which the signal inside of the thing that Turlough found, and he's very hesitant to talk about his home world. He later explains in the story that apparently the whole secret of why he was on Earth in the first place was because his father took the wrong side in the Civil War, and his father, him, and a character who was actually his brother in the story is actually exiles from his home world. He was exiled from his home world for taking the wrong side of the Civil War. What was Civil War about? Don't know. He doesn't go into much detail about it. So he got sent to Earth in an English boarding school, while his father and his baby brother, who was infant at the time, crashed on this planet called Suriel. And of course, he has the mark on, or he chose the one. He explains what the actual mark means. Is that he's actual a prisoner. Yep, something which never mentioned before. It's almost like, basically, like I mentioned, they had to do this because it was Turlough's last episode. Now, I was trying to find out exactly why he was leaving the show, but I couldn't find a reason why. My guess is, now from what I've read, maybe he got frustrated with the fact that a lot of the time he wasn't allowed, with the exception of his debut episode, it seemed like he was, from what I've heard, apparently a lot of the stuff, a lot of him just being imprisoned, and he just felt like he had nothing to do. So he probably got fed up with being given nothing to do in a lot of the stories, so that's why he left. In the case of Nisso, it's probably the same reason why. But this story, he gets a lot to do. He's like a primary character. Which begs the question, why the heck did they wait till his last story to do this? Yes, seriously. So they go to the planet and we're gonna burn these heretics. We can burn people because they're heretics. I was like, oh, we're not going to burn them because basically they don't want to burn people. So the whole thing with the device that they're burning in, yeah, it's actually a healing chamber. It's not meant for sacrifices. That part was a lie. So then we have it where the Chosen One meets Turlough, and Turlough basically figures out that this guy is actually his brother. Now, the Elder, for some reason, meets the chameleon-possessed Master. Master-possessed chameleon. Who was running from Perry. Perry, of course, the chameleon briefly turns to Silver Howard. He gives her a piece of TARDIS, which she gives to Turlough, and then Turlough gives to the Doctor. What's good on that part, basically, they remember that, because I would have thought they would have forgotten it. And I at least got him at the pacing of the story is really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this story. This story was a lot of fun, and quite possibly by far one of the best stories of the Fifth Doctor's run. There's no hiccups, with the exception of stuff with Turlough, which that was expected because it's a Turlough story. But with the exception of that, it's an overall really good story. I do highly recommend it. Though, here's something interesting though. The planet they go on, this location, apparently John Lenz turned to convince Abby asked twice if they can shoot here. Twice, because one of the producers went out there for vacation, and after asking the second time, they got to get out no problem. But yeah, they of course leave, and of course Turlough's write-off is that, Apparently, political prisoners are no longer persecuted. So, he's able to go home. No problem. What happens to him? Read the books. Yeah, the books practically explain what the heck happened to him after he left here. So, then the Doctor and Perry just travel to TARDIS for a few months. Because, hey, 3 months, it turns out, is actually like 2 years, basically, Perry travels with the Doctor. Though, with like the next story, it's the end of Peter Davison's run. Yep. But what rating do I get Planet of Fire? I get this one a 10 out of 10 because this one was a lot of fun. Oh, and here's something interesting, though, about the Anthony L.A. Doctor that you might find quite interesting. Like, I thought this was interesting. Do you know the reason why he died? About he dies at the end of the story? And here's the reason why. The actor's contract expired. That's why they killed him off. Though they came back the following year, Mark of the Ronnie, with no explanation. By the way, there's a cutscene here I saw where apparently they once again mentioned the events of Time Flight. So what is this, like 2 stories in a row they mentioned Time Flight? Yeah, though this is quite strange. Now, this was the Master's first appearance since the 5 Doctors, which, of course, for some reason, is not brought. I don't know if, as far as I can tell, that story was not brought up during the events of Warriors of Deep. As a matter of fact, this story, for some reason, is not mentioned, because normally that's what they do. They usually mention something of the previous story in the very next episode. This one, no. Not really. 5 Doctors, not really. But Planet of Fire. This is going to be quite interesting to discuss Kay Rosali. I'm going to discuss it probably tomorrow. But, damn. What a fantastic story. Now, in case you're curious though, like, who are seeing reviews, did reviews of this particular story? Well, first it was, Nash did a review of the story. Yes, they did. One was, Doctor Who Classic ones they did. And also, Esther reviewed the story. Yep. Though I think the whole thing with the Master, at least that part was explained. How is it part of the TARDIS that size? I don't know, but yeah. And this sadly put, like I mentioned, aside from the fact that his contract expired, this also is the last time he fought this version of the Doctor, because he fought Colin Baker's Doctor twice. And he fought Special Corps Master Doctor, well, technically twice, because he was also featured in the Doctor movie in the 1980s. But in the case of the final season of the Peter Davison run for Doctor Who, with this very story completed, there is now approximately 3 stories left for season 21. Yep, 3 more. So, excuse me. Next time back to this, it will be Caves of Arizali, which, from what I've heard, is referred to as one of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time, and it's also the final story of Peter Davison's run. Now, I had decided to get this one along with the following story and the next 2 stories because I wanted to start Perry Brown's arc. Because basically Twin Dilemma picks up right where Caves of Arizali leaves off. Yeah, and this also is quite strange though. You have Doctor basically of his cricket outfit this episode. Yeah, he starts it with the outfit, and then I think with the following story, he ditches it. For some reason, also, he starts wearing his coat that he wears with the celery stick. And they explain in the next episode what the heck it's for, which I'll get to that when I talk about Caves of Arizali for the next episode. Okay, so that's episode of you. Next episode is going to be at least 3 comic corners. Okay? Now, these comic corners are quite interesting because the first 2, the theme is Superman. Yep. Thanks to you. Bye.